Let me take you back to a chilling incident that occurred many years ago. It was a typical evening in Sweden, and I found myself standing in line at Max, my favorite burger joint. Little did I know that this mundane outing would lead to an encounter I would never forget. As I patiently waited my turn, I glanced around, seeking something to distract myself from the anticipation of sinking my teeth into a juicy burger. That's when I noticed a familiar face just a few spots ahead of me in the line. It was none other than Adam Armada Lindgren, the renowned professional Super Smash Bros. Melee player. Now, I must confess that I was never a fan of Melee. My gaming interests leaned more towards classics like Super Mario 64, but seeing someone of Armada's caliber intrigued me nonetheless. I admired his dedication to the game and the way he had achieved such success in the competitive scene. After finally getting my burger, I left the bustling burger joint, unaware of the chilling events that were about to unfold. As I walked down the dimly lit streets, my mind wandered to my aspirations of becoming a math and physics teacher someday. It was in these moments of contemplation that my path intersected with danger. From the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a group of shady figures approaching from the shadows. Instinctively, I quickened my pace, hoping to evade any unwanted attention. But it seemed that my efforts were in vain as the group closed in on me, their ominous presence growing more palpable with every step. Fear tightened its grip around my heart as the group surrounded me, their intentions unclear. The dim street lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows across their faces. A chill ran down my spine, and I knew I had stumbled into a dangerous situation. One of the figures stepped forward, a menacing glint in his eyes. He demanded my valuables, his voice laced with a sinister edge. In that moment, I felt my survival instincts kick in, a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Drawing on the courage I didn't know I possessed, I refused to succumb to their intimidation. I knew I couldn't let them take away my belongings without a fight. With a determined voice, I firmly stood my ground, asserting that they couldn't intimidate me into submission. Just as the tension reached its peak and the situation seemed hopeless, fate intervened. From the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar face approaching. It was Armada, the Melee legend himself, calmly striding towards the group. I couldn't believe my luck as Armada engaged the assailants in conversation. His calm demeanor and commanding presence diffused the tension in the air. With words of authority and confidence, he convinced the would-be muggers to abandon their malicious intentions. As the group dispersed, swallowed by the shadows from which they had emerged, I was left standing there, speechless and awestruck. Armada had saved me from a terrifying ordeal, and I was overcome with gratitude. I thanked Armada profusely, my voice trembling with a mix of relief and admiration. He simply nodded, acknowledging my gratitude, and continued on his way. It was a brief encounter, but one that left an indelible mark on my memory. In the aftermath of that night, I couldn't help but reflect on the fragility of life and the power of unexpected heroes. It reminded me of the strength we can find within ourselves in times of adversity. Armada's presence had not only saved me physically, but it had also inspired me to face life's challenges head-on. Though we may never cross paths again, the memory of that night will forever remind me to embrace courage and confront the darkness with unwavering determination. And as I continue my journey towards becoming a math and physics teacher, I carry with me the knowledge that even in the face of danger, there is always hope. So, let us never forget the significance of chance encounters, for they have the power to shape our lives in unimaginable ways. And to Armada, wherever he may be, I offer my eternal gratitude for being the unexpected hero in my own personal tale of survival. I've always been a fan of horror stories, especially the spine-chilling ones you find on Reddit. Little did I know that one fateful night would land me right in the middle of my own Let's Not Meet story, revolving around a seemingly innocent restaurant called Restaurant 33. It was a stormy evening when I found myself driving through a desolate part of town. Rain poured relentlessly, making visibility almost non-existent. I had planned to meet some friends for dinner, but due to the storm, most places were closed. That's when I noticed a dimly lit sign bearing the words Restaurant 33 flickering through the heavy downpour. Desperate for shelter and sustenance, I pulled into the parking lot, my car splashing through puddles as I approached the eerie establishment. The restaurant's exterior was worn and dilapidated, the paint peeling off the walls as if it had seen better days. Yet, a warm glow emanated from within, beckoning me to enter and seek refuge from the storm. Stepping inside, I was greeted by an eerie silence. The place seemed frozen in time, the air heavy with an otherworldly aura. The interior was decorated with faded photographs, depicting people whose faces had been blurred by the passage of time. A shiver ran down my spine, but my growling stomach urged me to stay. I approached the hostess, a frail-looking woman with tired eyes. Her voice was barely a whisper as she guided me to an empty booth in the corner. The restaurant was empty, devoid of any other customers. The atmosphere was suffocating, and a peculiar smell hung in the air, a mixture of decay and something indescribable. As I perused the menu, I noticed something peculiar about the food selections. The items seemed ordinary enough, but their descriptions had an unsettling tone. The mysterious stew and forbidden delight caught my eye, making me question the sanity of dining here. Ignoring my intuition, I ordered the least suspicious-sounding dish and waited anxiously for my meal to arrive. Time seemed to crawl as I sat alone in that dimly lit corner, the storm raging outside. My eyes darted around the room, catching glimpses of movement in the shadows. I shook off the feeling of unease, attributing it to my overactive imagination fueled by the mysterious ambience of the place. Finally, the waitress brought my plate, her eyes devoid of any emotion. The dish looked ordinary enough, but as I took my first bite, a wave of nausea washed over me. The taste was rancid, something far from what I had expected. Panic surged through my veins, and I knew I had to leave before something unimaginable happened. As I stood up, a haunting whisper echoed through the empty restaurant, freezing me in place. "You can't leave now," a voice rasped. I turned to face the source, my heart pounding in my chest. The waitress stood before me, her once lifeless eyes now gleaming with malevolence. With a surge of adrenaline, I darted toward the exit, the storm raging in tandem with my racing heart. The door creaked open, and I burst out into the rain-soaked night. Behind me, I heard the anguished wails and desperate pleas for me to return, but I refused to succumb to the siren's call. I sprinted through the darkness, the distant sound of thunder acting as a constant reminder of the horrors I had narrowly escaped. The storm eventually subsided, leaving me drenched and disoriented. I stumbled upon a nearby convenience store and called the police, recounting the horrors I had witnessed at Restaurant 33. The authorities investigated the place but found no trace of the mysterious restaurant. It was as if it had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the remnants of its haunting memories. To this day, I still shudder at the thought of that night, grateful that I lived to share my tale. So, if you ever find yourself driving through a desolate part of town on a stormy night, and you come across a seemingly innocent restaurant with a flickering sign, heed my warning, let's not meet at Restaurant 33. I was always intrigued by the enigmatic charm of old restaurants, the kind that had weathered decades of time and tales within their worn-out walls. So when I stumbled upon a small, hidden gem called the Whispering Willow, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city, I couldn't resist the allure of experiencing its mysterious ambience for myself. The Whispering Willow stood apart from the flashy modern eateries that dominated the area. Its exterior boasted an ancient charm, with faded red bricks and a sign creaking on rusty hinges. Inside, the air smelled of rich spices and aged wood, casting a spell of nostalgia that beckoned visitors to step back in time. As I walked through the door, a hush fell over the room, and all eyes turned towards me. It was as if the atmosphere itself whispered caution, warning me of the secrets concealed within the restaurant's dimly lit interior. The patrons, their faces obscured in shadows, watched my every move with curiosity. Ignoring the discomforting gaze, I found a vacant table near the back and settled in. A waiter, dressed impeccably in a tailored black suit, appeared at my side. His eyes bore into mine, intense and penetrating, as he handed me the menu with a gloved hand. His lips barely moved as he spoke, his voice a haunting whisper. "Welcome to the Whispering Willow," he murmured, his words sending a chill down my spine. "May I take your order?" I stammered out my choice, feeling an inexplicable sense of unease. The waiter nodded and retreated into the shadows, leaving me alone in the hauntingly silent dining room. The air grew thick with an oppressive tension, and I couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching my every move. Minutes turned to hours, and my meal failed to arrive. The whispers of conversation from nearby tables heightened my anxiety, the words becoming indistinguishable from the low hum of 1,000 secrets. Shadows danced across the walls, creating grotesque figures that seemed to move with a life of their own. As I began contemplating leaving, the waiter reappeared, his face a mask of unrelenting determination. In his gloved hand, he held a silver tray adorned with a cloche. Slowly, he removed the lid, revealing a plate adorned with a dish that looked both tantalizing and sinister. I hesitated, my stomach knotting with apprehension, but something compelled me to take a bite. The flavor exploded in my mouth, rich and exquisite, but a sense of dread overwhelmed me. Each mouthful intensified the unsettling whispers in the room, as if the souls of those who had dined here before were trapped within the very essence of the food. With every passing second, my heart pounded louder, mirroring the symphony of murmurs that enveloped me. Panic swelled inside, urging me to escape the clutches of this eerie establishment. Without another thought, I threw some money on the table and bolted towards the exit. The patrons' gazes followed me, their eyes filled with a mix of longing and despair. The door swung open, releasing me into the night, and I stumbled into the cool air, gasping for breath. Relief washed over me, but I couldn't shake the lingering feeling that I had narrowly escaped a fate far worse than I could comprehend. Weeks passed, and I struggled to forget my encounter at the Whispering Willow. My mind was plagued with questions. What was the nature of that haunting place? Who were those patrons trapped in eternal longing? And why did that waiter's whisper still echo in my ears? Unable to resist the pull of curiosity, I scoured the internet for any information about the restaurant. To my dismay, I found nothing. It was as if the Whispering Willow had never existed outside the realm of my experience. To this day, the memory of that night haunts me, a reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected corners. I often wonder if others have ventured into that timeless abyss, drawn in by the allure of secrets and whispers. Perhaps my story will serve as a warning, a beacon of caution amidst the darkness, reminding others to steer clear of the enigmatic charm of the Whispering Willow. It was a chilly autumn evening when I stumbled upon a peculiar restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. Its name, Le Chateau Noir, was etched in elegant gold lettering on a fading wooden sign. The place exuded an air of mystery, with its ivy-covered walls and dimly lit windows that concealed its secrets. Little did I know, stepping through those doors would forever change my perception of reality. As I pushed open the heavy oak door, a wave of warmth and the tantalizing aroma of delectable cuisine welcomed me. The cozy ambience and the soft melody of jazz music drifting through the air instantly put me at ease. I took a seat at a corner table, bathed in a soft amber glow from the flickering candlelight. The waiter, a middle-aged man with a well-trimmed mustache, approached me with a knowing smile. His eyes seemed to hold ancient wisdom as he handed me the menu, its pages adorned with faded illustrations of French delicacies. I ordered my meal, unaware that my journey into darkness had already begun. As I savored the sumptuous flavors, I couldn't help but notice an odd sensation creeping up my spine, a sense of being watched. I brushed it off as my imagination playing tricks on me, attributing it to the restaurant's eerie ambience. However, the feeling intensified with each passing moment. Glancing around discreetly, I noticed a peculiar sight. The patrons seemed lost in their own worlds, their faces devoid of any emotion or expression. It was as if they were trapped within the walls of this enigmatic establishment, mere puppets in a macabre theater. My unease grew exponentially when I locked eyes with a young woman sitting across the room. Her eyes were empty voids, devoid of life, and her pale complexion contrasted sharply with her jet black hair. She stared intently at me, her lips curled into a haunting smile that sent shivers down my spine. Deciding it was time to leave, I fumbled for my wallet, only to realize it was missing. Panic surged through my veins as I frantically searched my pockets, hoping for a miracle. The sinister atmosphere weighed heavily upon me as the realization dawned something was terribly wrong in this place. Summoning every ounce of courage, I stood up, ready to make my escape. But just as I turned to leave, the waiter blocked my path, his once jovial expression replaced by a malevolent smirk. He whispered, his voice laced with an otherworldly quality, "You can't leave, not without paying." Fear consumed me, but I refused to succumb to the clutches of this nightmarish reality. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I sprinted towards the kitchen, desperate to find an exit. The clattering of cutlery echoed through the corridors as I made my way deeper into the restaurant's forbidden depths. The kitchen was a chaotic symphony of sights and sounds, a frenzy of chefs working tirelessly, their faces contorted with a mix of exhaustion and despair. One of them, a disheveled man with haunted eyes, beckoned me towards him. Without uttering a word, he handed me my wallet and pointed to a small door at the far end of the kitchen. As I burst through the door, I found myself in a narrow alley bathed in the pale glow of the moon. Breathing heavily, I looked back to see Le Chateau Noir, its haunting facade now a distant memory. The night air filled my lungs, reassuring me that I had escaped the clutches of that malevolent realm. To this day, I can't explain what truly happened within those walls. Le Chateau Noir remains a haunting enigma, forever etched in my memory. I often wonder about those trapped within its grasp, doomed to dine on their nightmares for eternity. But one thing is certain: I survived, and I'll forever be grateful for the fleeting taste of danger that reminded me of the fragility of our existence. I used to be a night owl, finding solace in the eerie tranquility that cloaked the streets when the rest of the world slept. It was during one of these nights that I stumbled upon the Midnight Diner, a hidden gem tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city. Its neon sign flickered, casting an ominous glow on the otherwise deserted street. Curiosity beckoned me inside. The moment I pushed open the creaking door, a gust of cool air wrapped around me, luring me deeper into the restaurant's dimly lit interior. The place had an eerie charm, with worn-out booths and a bar adorned with vintage photographs. The scent of sizzling bacon and freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the whispers of secrets from the past. I took a seat at the counter, exchanging nods with the worn-out cook who worked diligently behind the grill. The only other customer, a man huddled in the corner booth, seemed lost in his own thoughts. I observed the peculiar details: a small plaque reading "Reservations only" by the entrance and an aged photograph of the original owner, long gone from this mortal coil. As I sipped my coffee, the door burst open, letting in a chilling draft. A woman stumbled inside, her face gaunt and pale, her eyes wide with fear. She glanced around anxiously before collapsing into the booth next to mine, tears streaming down her cheeks. With trepidation, I asked if she was okay, and through shaky breaths, she recounted her harrowing ordeal. The woman claimed that she had been lured into the Midnight Diner by a stranger who promised her a unique dining experience. Once inside, she found herself trapped, surrounded by a group of masked individuals who reveled in the sinister. The woman's story sent shivers down my spine, but part of me questioned its authenticity. As she described the masks and their hollow eyes, the cook's hands trembled ever so slightly, unnoticed by anyone but me. I watched him closely, my senses heightened, and my survival instincts kicking in. Just as my suspicion grew, the front door swung open again, and a group of people wearing grotesque masks stepped into the diner. Panic filled the room, and the woman beside me froze in terror. The masked figures approached, their presence exuding malevolence. The cook, having caught my gaze, nodded subtly, urging me to follow him. Without a second thought, I slipped off my seat and quietly followed him through the kitchen and into a hidden passage, concealed behind a large refrigerator. My heart raced as I descended a narrow staircase, plunging deeper into the bowels of darkness. Through the dimly lit corridor, the cook led me to safety, a hidden underground room where other survivors had sought refuge. We listened intently as the muffled screams and chaos echoed above. Minutes felt like hours as we remained huddled together, praying that the horrors would pass us by. Eventually, the screams ceased, and silence engulfed the hidden sanctuary. Timidly, we emerged, the remnants of fear still etched upon our faces. The midnight diner had fallen into an eerie calm, as if it had swallowed the evil that had once tainted its air. We hurriedly made our way back through the labyrinthine tunnels, finding our way back to the surface. As we emerged into the early dawn, the sun's first rays kissed our trembling bodies, signifying our liberation from the darkness. I never returned to the midnight diner, but its haunting memory lingers, a constant reminder of the hidden terrors that can lurk in the most ordinary of places. The cook, whose name I never learned, had saved my life that night. And as for the woman who first shared her tale of terror, she vanished, leaving only her ghostly presence in the corners of my mind. So, to those who seek the thrill of the unknown, beware of the allure that beckons from behind closed doors, for within the mundane can reside the most unimaginable horrors.